Welcome to Burning Bright, a weekly podcast presenting poetry and prose from Passenger. On January 27, 1945, Allied forces liberated the Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camps. The United Nations later designated January 27th International Holocaust Remembrance Day. It honors the 6 million Jewish victims of the Holocaust and the millions of other victims of the Holocaust and Nazism. Fedora Horowitz grew up in Romania. She said that as a child she gave life traits to the objects around her. One of those objects was a shawl she named Bertha. She said the shawl gave us warmth and witnessed our family tragedies. It represented a link between the generation of my grandmother and her great-granddaughter. Here's an excerpt from Fedora Horowitz's story, Bertha. In my immediate family, no one seemed to have any doubt as to who had saved my mother's life during that fateful day when, misled by wrong information, she left us in the warmth and security of our hideaway place and went downtown to the police station to receive the Safe Pass, the pass which would allow the Jews the freedom to walk after dark in Iași, Romania, during the first months of World War II. The young man who brought us the news that morning was breathless. "The head of the Jewish community and the chief of police have come to an understanding," he said. "Everyone who will identify himself as a Jew at the police station will receive a pass for himself and his family." Then he ran out without waiting for questions in his hurry to deliver the message to other houses. 6 pairs of eyes interrogated each other. "I will go," volunteered my mother. She was 29 years old and had a lot of courage. Shivering, she threw Bertha over her slender shoulders for warmth and to keep her company, and left. She told us so many times what happened to her afterwards that it has been forever imprinted in my memory. "The streets were unusually quiet," she began. "I could hear my steps on the pavement, 1, 2, 1, 2. All of a sudden the silence cracked. At first I heard a long wail. Then there were shouts and gun firing. I stopped at the intersection of Lozanski and Kuzovoda streets and peered through the length of Kuzovoda before crossing it. What I saw made my blood freeze. 2 soldiers dragged a naked woman, one pulling her long hair, the other stabbing her ribs with a bayonet. Her screams filled the air, drilling the nerves of my spine. I heard a familiar voice saying angrily, 'Woman, where are you going?' It was Kolya Symposiu. I knew Kolya Symposiu. He and his brother George were my uncle's business partners. He was a taciturn man who spoke little. I told him where I was going, but he didn't seem to hear me. He covered my head and face and took my arm gently. 'Let's go home. I'm going to take you home now,' he whispered. 'Kolya,' my mother pleaded with him, 'I'm going to the police station. It is our only chance. They issue safe passes for Jews. Please, Kolya, let me go.' I looked into Kolya's eyes. My mother continued her story. They were full of gripping sadness, like the entire sadness of the world was concentrated in them. Kolya brought my mother home safely and stayed with us for 24 hours, not allowing anyone to leave the house. The date was September 30th, 1941, the day of the big pogrom, when 10,000 Jews lost their lives. They were those less fortunate than my mother, who were lured by the rumor started by the Romanian police themselves. With all respect and everlasting gratefulness to Kolya Symposiu, I felt our Bertha had a part in it. How else one explain the miracle that Kolya met my mother in the last second, before she was going to cross into the main street and its sea of blood? It was Bertha's doing, I'm sure of it. An excerpt from Fedora Horowitz's story Bertha, from Passenger's 21st anniversary anthology Burning Bright, published in 2011. Seems like once the camps were liberated that would have been the end of it, but trauma lingers. Here's a poem by Fran Markover, Memorial for My Name. Great-grandmother shadows over me, last dream, crying out our name, Fagala, Fagala. Her spirit covers me like a prayer shawl in the night's chill. Great-grandmother yearns for her family, last dream, whispering, my story, my name. Among the incense of pogrom ashes she pleads, who'd harm an old woman? Great-grandmother hovers over me, light as a firebird. Last dream. Orange flames that consumed her at Buchenwald consume me, shivering in my bed, burning. Fran Markover's Memorial for My Name from her book, Grandfather's Mandolin. And from Wilderness Sarchild's book, Old Women Talking, more about the long-term trauma of the Holocaust. Here's her poem, Roots. It's hard to know your roots when your ancestors were forced to leave every place they ever lived. When your ancestors, 6 million of them, were incinerated in gas ovens. When those that survived would never talk about the past. It's hard to know your roots, though they live, in the shape of your nose, in your longing and despair, a way of speaking, a way of thinking, a way of looking over your shoulder, always prepared to run. Roots, Wilderness Sarchild. To buy Wilderness's book, Old Women Talking, or Fran Markover's book, Grandfather's Mandolin, or to subscribe to or learn more about Passenger and its commitment to writers over 50, go to PassegerBooks.com. You can download Burning Bright from Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, and various other podcast apps. For Kendra, Mary, Christine, Roseanne, and the rest of the Passenger staff, I'm John Shore.